The New York Times writes, the mayor told the Times that if she was elected mayor, not only would I, of course, live here, but I would also not travel internationally. That pledge has been spectacularly broken. The Times writes, her decision to leave the country at a time when the National Weather Service was warning of, quote, extreme fire weather conditions has set off a political crisis for Miss Bass.
Yes, Mo Yarborough. Oh, he's shocked, and he's appalled. He's shocked because he doesn't follow the news. Nobody at MSNBC follows the news. Just a demented, corrupt circle fest in a hot tub. Speaking of the demented circle fest in a hot tub, I have news media news for you. News media news. Chunk Todd. You know Chunk. Ba-ba-da-ba, ba-da-da-da-da. Here's the headline from Semaphore and Max Tenney. Chunk Todd to exit NBC. He's going to exit NBC. The exit's right over there, and he's going to use it. Chunk Todd has quietly been meeting with Washington media organizations about his post-NBC future. The former host of Meet the Press has told top editors and leaders from other media organizations that he plans to leave NBC when his contract is up this year, and has discussed potential roles outside the network, both in broadcast and digital media. Well, he's such a handsome devil. Isn't he? He's like, there's Clooney and Cary Grant and Chunk Todd, I think, is pretty, because he can't, they love him so much. He's such a Democrat. He was once a Democrat Senate campaign staffer. Who was that for? Was that Tom Harkin, I think, out of Iowa? Left-wing, radical, Democrat extremist. And Chunk, it's the best way to a multi-million-dollar network news anchor job is to work for the Democrats. Like Jake Tapper. He was a staffer for the Democrat on Capitol Hill whose son married Chelsea Clinton. Her son married Chelsea Clinton. And her husband was a member of the House of Representatives, too. He went to prison for corruption because, you know, it's Washington. So the former host of Meet the Press said he's been meeting with media organizations and he's looking for stuff. Todd was once a key part of NBC's broadcast offerings, hosting Meet the Press, also known as Face the Meat, and a daily Meet the Press politics program on MSDNC, and writing for its website. But while NBC announced that Chunk Todd, would focus on long-form projects after stepping down from Meet the Press in 2023, it's now 2025, he has been far less visible, and his presence across the news network and its cable counterpart. Todd publicly criticized NBC over its decision to hire former Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel. Yeah, because she's a real radical, right? The Romney, Romney, that's the, right. So the network immediately backpedaled, but the incident led some staffers to question Todd's future there. So Chunk on his way toward the door, he's out of there. Also, another radical left-winger from the Washington Post, Jen Rubin, a.k.a. Jennifer Rubin, a.k.a. Gums. People call her Gums. Why, I'm not entirely sure. But the scoop from Brian Seltzerwater. He wants to have sex with the media, but nobody will have sex with him. Have you seen him? He's Humpty Dumpty. Honestly, he's Uncle Fester. Please. But Brian Seltzerwater announces Jen Rubin quits the Washington Post. Now, that's kind of strange, since the Washington Post right now is in the middle of laying off large numbers of people. So it's possible that Jen Rubin is lying when she says she quit. She might have beat them to the punch, finding out that she was about to be laid off, as so many people are being laid off by the Washington Post. They lost $77 million last year alone, but they've got Jeff Bezos as their owner.
You can't talk broad themes. You have to boil it down to nuts and bolts, and you have to be pithy. What do I mean by pithy?
What?
How about this?
Huh.
Republicans want to kill your kids. It's actually true.
That, of course, goes with our favorite presidential historian, Michael Beschloss. That's Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post. Republicans want to... Now, this is the party of abortions. They killed 1 million kids last year, more than 1 million. And they give out awards for it, lucite blocks, golden statuettes. Amazing stuff. Republicans want to kill your kids. That's what Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post reported. So CNN now typing up, Jen Rubin exits Washington Post, joins Norm Eisen to launch new outlet countering, quote, authoritarian threat. Well, you're leaving a part of the authoritarian threat when you leave the Washington Post, but you're too dumb and too dishonest to know that. Isn't that amazing? Just amazing. So veteran opinion columnist who says Republicans literally want to kill your children is leaving the Washington Post and on to greener pastures. Isn't that amazing? Going to leave the troubled institution. And Rubin is partnering with former White House ethics czar Norm Eisen. Now, she doesn't point out, or this is, Humpty Dumpty. So is he a she now? I could be right. Rubin is partnering with former White House ethics czar Norm Eisen and launching something new, a startup publication called The Contrarian. I'm the Contrarian. I should sue them for stealing my title. The startup tagline, not owned by anybody. Well, that's good. That means you're already bankrupt. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, and Norm Eisen, because, you got to go with Norm Eisen. He was the White House ethics. Does it say what White House? Because that'd be kind of important, wouldn't it? If you're a journalist and you're writing information about things to know, then maybe you'd want to do something like that. Because Norm Eisen is, you think he's like a rock-ribbed conservative? What do you think? Probably not. ... Man, oh, man. He's, Obama, and former ambassador Norm Eisen. And he's an Obama guy. So just to fair and balanced, Washington Post, Jen Rubin, who says that Republicans want to kill all your children, which goes perfectly with media darling Michael Beschloss, presidential historian.
What was at stake tonight and this week
midterms
was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed. We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
That's right. If the Republicans won control of the House and the Senate, a brutal authoritarian system. And then what about the children? Because, they care very deeply about the children, don't they? Yes, that's why they love Planned Parenthood so much and lots of funding for that. And grooming your children in K through 12.
Whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed.
See? Because conceivably. Jen Rubin, what did Jen Rubin say? Let's play that Jen Rubin again, because she wasn't at all wishy-washy or ambiguous.
You can't talk broad themes. You have to boil it down to nuts and bolts, and you have to be pithy. How about this? Republicans want to kill your kids. It's actually true.
It's actually true. This is journalism. That's award-winning journalism today. And I promise you, she's an award-winning journalist. And the Obama administration official, Norm Eisen, she's gone away to... And they actually used to tell us that Jen Rubin was the conservative voice at the Washington Post. Isn't that amazing? These people, can I just say? These people. They are amazing. All right, let's take a phone call. We haven't taken a phone call in a while. Let's go to the telephones and to Garrett, calling from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Garrett, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. When you were highlighting the questions and answers by the reporters who were trying to steer the narrative in California, we form an opinion about those reporters. But I have to wonder, do they make up those questions, or are those questions given to them by producers or somebody higher up at the networks?
Well, it could be either, actually. the reporters, it depends on the moment and the event and so on. But having been in that business for a very, very long time and grown up in that business, 17 years as a TV news guy myself at CNN and growing up in a CBS News family, 52 years. My stepfather, a CBS News correspondent. Then my mother and her father in the media business going back forever. And, my family's been on the air nonstop for 100 years, coming up on 101 years now. And sometimes the bosses will say, hit her with this one, hit her with this one. And if it's the boss, then you kind of have to do it. Producers may say, let's make it about Trump. But, you're right, Garrett. They made it all about Trump, didn't they? In Los Angeles, the fires, talking to the mayor, they didn't ask her any hard-hitting questions at all. But the questions were designed to draw Trump into the fires in California and somehow, in the end, blame him for it, right?
Right. No, I blame the fossil fuels that all the houses that burned down were made out of.
Right, exactly. The petroleum products that so many of the elements in the homes were made out of. And it's true. Petroleum products are everywhere around us. I'm in a radio studio right now, and the number of items in here that are filled with petroleum products, from the flat screen TVs and the arms that the microphones are on, and the microphones themselves, and the countertops and the floors and the mural of the city of Washington on the wall, all petroleum-based stuff.
Even wood is considered a fossil fuel.
Well, it's at least when it's burning, then it's it's a fuel. But the news media again, Garrett, I call them the most corrupt institution in America because I know what I'm talking about, and I got to say, our news media has never been worse. It's appalling how horrible they are, isn't it? And what do we do about that?
You're the best guy to ask that question.
What do we do about that, Garrett? I mean, we listen to shows like my show, No Nonsense, Truth Seekers. I'm not in love with the Republican Party or Republicans. I love the truth and honesty and the United States of America and freedom and liberty and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution of Western civilization. I'm a big fan of these things, but it's all based on telling the truth, isn't it, Garrett?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that we can do other than just not give them our sponsorship, not give them any attention, don't watch them. The ratings are so low and they're all losing money. I quite frankly don't see how they even stay in business.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's their business model is dead. They murdered their own business model by way of autoerotic asphyxiation once again. They are amazing. And, the Washington Post, again, lost $77 million last year. But the owner, Jeff Bezos, is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, one of the richest men in the history of the world, and certainly in the world today. And he doesn't care. He bought the Washington Post like some people buy a sandwich at lunchtime. And he bought a museum in Washington, D.C. to make his house, which he did. Literally bought a museum, the textile museum, just off of DuPont Circle. Two mansions, two estates joined to make the textile museum. He bought it, kicked them out, made it his Washington residence because he was certain that Hillary Clinton, his buddy, was going to be moving into the White House, and he wanted to have an estate close to her. And he bought the Washington Post for, I think, $300 million after he got a contract with the CIA for $600 million. And that was kind of peculiar, too. But when you're a Democrat, none of this matters.
Well, maybe Elon will buy it from him.
Yeah, maybe he should. He should, and buy the New York Times, too, and turn them into newspapers. That'd ruin the whole thing, though, wouldn't it? Garrett, thank you for being smart and paying attention and caring about what matters. We need, a country full of people with the same sensibilities. I've got the head of Snopes, the founder and CEO of Snopes, the fake fact checkers. I can't tell you how many times I've fact-checked their fake fact checks. But he's a Democrat Party hack, and he's out there running his mouth. I've got that coming up. He's wrong. Even when he's right, he's wrong. That's coming up. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Now, here's an amazing story. Molly Hemingway posted on her X account, which is formerly known as Twitter. And she's always right about everything. She's wonderful. Molly Hemingway. She's a reporter, and that can be problematic in Washington, D.C., because, you know, they kill reporters. Now, they fire you. Not that explains Chuck Todd or this Jen Rubin at the Washington Post. And it's kind of peculiar that she announced that she's quitting while they're laying off so many people, that is to say, firing so many people, taking their jobs and their incomes away at the Washington Post. But isn't that amazing? Now, Molly Hemingway posting. So apparently Brian Flood reported this years ago, but I missed it. Molly Hemingway begins. The Access Hollywood videotape, you remember this, that had Donald Trump from years and years and years ago talking to an NBC kind of celebrity person, Billy Bush, who seems like a perfectly nice guy, but got caught in the gears of the Democrat Party trying to destroy their political enemies. The Access Hollywood tape was leaked by NBC. NBC News, NBC Network had this videotape of Donald Trump saying, oh, you know, when you're famous, you can get away with stuff, which all these famous people know. Where in the world is Matt Lauer, for example? We think he's at his giant sprawling ranch in New Zealand, but it's hard to say. So listen to this. The tape was leaked in 2016 to the Washington Post, right? And Billy Bush was collateral damage. Anyway, Flood notes that the head of NBC at the time was a guy named Noah Oppenheim. Noah Oppenheim, coincidentally, was co-editor at the Harvard Crimson, because everybody goes to Harvard. And his roommate, his co-editor at the Harvard Crimson was David Fahrenthold. And David Fahrenthold was, the recipient of the leak at the Washington Post, because they went from Harvard to the news media to spread propaganda and the big lie that their forebearer, Joseph Goebbels, or Goergel, if you're MSNBC. So Noah Oppenheim and David Fahrenthold were co-editors at the Harvard Crimson. Noah Oppenheim was the head of NBC, and NBC leaked this Trump tape to the Washington Post. And coincidentally, isn't this amazing? Both Fahrenthold and Oppenheim were groomsmen at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. Right? And the man that Chelsea Clinton married, well, Jake Tapper used to work for his mother on Capitol Hill. So many wild stories to get to. Crazy stories. Yeah, Tucker Carlson did an interview with Billy Bush last week. Billy Bush, the guy caught up in the let's get Trump thing from the Harvard boys. David Fahrenthold is now at the New York Times. He was at the Washington Post then. It's a great big circle fest in a hot tub. It's just a revolving door, rotating thing, if you will. Stay away from the rotating thing. Just amazing stuff. The media. Where do we get them? And is it too late to get rid of them? Honestly. These people. We don't really want these people around, do we? No, we don't. Everybody knows that. So many wacky stories. Yeah, so the Molly Hemingway, and it does go to the interview that Tucker Carlson did with Bush last week, and it matters. It genuinely matters. Serious stuff going on here, I'm telling you. Now, here's a fun story, and my friend Daniel Lippman Daniel Lippman of the Politico, who appears on my television show frequently on the Newsmax channel. And he's the reporter, so he's the lib on the show, right? But Daniel Lippman broke a fun story over the weekend. 2 months after Kamala Harris's defeat, the Harris Victory Fund that she set up with the DNC is still charging monthly recurring donors. I'm sorry, what's this? That's right. If you signed up, if you were dumb enough to sign up to give money through the DNC or the Kamala Harris campaign, just amazing stuff. They're still charging you. You put it on your credit card and you want to, I'll give, $20 a month to the Kamala campaign. Well, the election's over. That was November, December, January. They're still taking money out of everybody's account because they're crazy. Now, the campaign set up with the Democratic National Committee this monthly fund the Kamala campaign of the Democrats thing, and it's still charging monthly recurring donors, according to screenshots shared with Politico's Playbook and Daniel Lippman. And some donors are not happy. It's silly, out of touch, and needlessly takes advantage of our most loyal supporters, said a Democratic operative who shared screenshots but remained anonymous because, they all have to remain anonymous because they fear their friends and their employers and their coworkers. It's fear. So the fact that the funds are now being redirected, however, redirected to where? Raises another ethical quandary. Is it fair to donors who contributed to an entity with Harris's name on it? The soon-to-be ex-vice president, as of next Monday, I wonder how she gets home. She might have to take the train. She might have to take the Greyhound bus. I'm not sure. But the money that she evaluates, her political future, so you're funding Kamala Harris, and does she have a political future? You're still sending money to her. Isn't that amazing? Just amazing. Wow, wow, wow. Extraordinary. And that's what they do. You keep sending him money. Go ahead. Kamala needs your money. It's just a racket, honestly. So the Politico has the story, Kamala Harris's zombie fundraising. Zombie fundraising. The campaign is dead. The election is over, but you're still giving money every month. Isn't that amazing? Just great. Also, and I don't know if this is 100% true or not, but J.D. Vance, our incoming vice president, and Senator J.D. Vance from Ohio, J.D. Vance's Ohio State Buckeyes will meet Pete Buttigieg's Notre Dame. I don't think they're Pete Buttigieg's Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish next Monday on the college football game, and that is the championship game in New Orleans, where they had the terrorist attack. And you remember the FBI agent with the nose ring told us it wasn't a terrorist attack. Then she vanished. She ended up at the bottom of a lake or something. What's going on with that? Isn't that amazing? But there's a report that J.D. Vance said, hopefully everyone is cool with me skipping the inauguration so I can go to the national title game. He posted on X, which is pretty funny. The game is 7:30 p.m., and he will be vice president. He'll have an airplane at his disposal. I think he can probably get on the airplane after the inauguration, fly to New Orleans, and be there in time for the big championship game. I do. And lots of excitement there in college football championships and stuff. So that's kind of a fun aside, I've got to say. But back to the zombie fundraising for Kamala Harris and the Politico reporting it, kind of amazing. It turns out that it's just amazing. They look for ways to steal money from everybody, don't they? Yes, they do. And it's not just her that is doing this. It turns out that in California they're doing the same thing. They're raising money for the campaign that's over still to this day, and funneling money to the Democrats, of course. Isn't that amazing? Zombie fundraising, and Gavin Newsom is cutting money from managing fires and things. But listen to this, because Newsom defends fire response in California with fact check site. They've got a fact check site because they keep talking about misinformation and disinformation. But it turns out the fact check site that California set up leads you to a left-wing fundraising outfit called Act Blue. And the Act Blue money, a portion of it goes right to the Democrat Party. And, a lot of it they just pay themselves and run their own operation. So Governor Gavin Newsom defended his handling of raging fires in Los Angeles area with a new website intended to combat what they called misinformation, but also links to Democrat Party fundraising giant Act Blue. You know, the guy that shot President Trump through the ear gave money to Act Blue. Right? And who else? I think the other guy arrested in Florida was linked with a rifle. I think he was linked to Act Blue, too. And so, hey, fact check what people are saying about the fire, and don't forget to give money to Act Blue. And if you were giving money to Kamala Harris before the campaign and you set up a payment plan, they're still charging you. Isn't that great? It's good to be a Democrat. Boy, I'm telling you. All right, we haven't gone to a telephone in a long, long time. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Joe calling from Purcellville, Virginia. Joseph, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, I think the Democrats have really figured out how to cool the planet. Put enough smoke in the air. And that's what the science says. The science, in the past, what's happened is volcanoes and similar type smoke generation has caused the climate to cool. We had a little ice age in the middle of the Middle Ages.
Uh-huh.
And they incidentally, the particles that go in the air also go into your lungs and cause cancer. And we forgot about that.
Well,
it generates.
you were talking to Jasmine, and you said you're a scientist and you're an engineer, correct?
Yeah, I have an engineering degree from New York University. I've been designing equipment engineering-wise, electrical engineering for the past 45 years. I'm retired right now.
Now,
I study climate change.
I reported when these stories were coming out about 5 years ago that one of the ways to cool the planet would be to start polluting again, that like bring back the industrial age, because the industrial age put so much pollutant in the air that it cooled the planet, right?
That's correct.
And then we clean the air.
Not the carbon dioxide, yeah.
And then we clean the air and more sun gets through, and that warms the planet, right?
Right. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Climate change is very complex. The Earth has gone through 43 ice ages, many of them caused by volcanoes putting enough dirt into the air and blocking the sun.
Right.
But there's no correlation. You know, we conservatives should own the science that CO2 is not a pollutant. CO2 is a food for plants. And when the plants get the CO2 in the air, it converts it into oxygen.
Right.
Just try not breathing for 4 minutes.
We like oxygen. We like clean air.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we have oxygen. And we better start putting more CO2 in the air, not less.
Because then plant life grows and trees grow, and trees and more greenery cleans the air for us.
Exactly. And all food is 40 to 50% carbon. Try burn your toast, and you'll find where the carbon is.
Right. Well, I saw you hanging on the line there, Joe, and I pulled up something from the Environmental Molecular Sciences Laboratory from January 24th of 2024, and they call themselves EMSL, of course. Michigan Tech scientists reveal how tar particles from wildfire smoke absorb and refract solar radiation, light in atmosphere. And the research has important insights regarding wildfire influence on climate change. And lots of smoke reflects the sunlight back, deflects sunlight, less sunlight pummels us here on Earth, and the planet cools.
Exactly, and they said the Democrats have figured out how to cool the planet.
Yeah, burn it.
Burn it.
Just burn it.
This not having enough carbon dioxide in the air is a very serious thing. They had
to burn the planet in order to save it, Joe. And just like that village in Vietnam, they had to destroy the village in order to save it, and now they have to burn the planet in order to save it, and they had to destroy democracy in order to save it too. They're the left. They're not liberals. Am I right, Joe?
Yeah, exactly. And they're using this as a means to control us, obviously. But I'm looking at it strictly from the scientific point of view. And if we don't have enough carbon dioxide, the level should be higher. It's a trace gas. It's 400 parts per million. And if it gets down to 130 parts per million, which you got very close to in the past, all life ceases because plants die in the water, in the ocean, and on land.
Huh.
And what's happening? And there, in the oceans, there are plankton and animals, miniature animals that take the carbon dioxide out of the water and form a shell. And that's what marble and limestone is.
I like all that stuff. I love all of it, and I love science. And we, the patriarchy. I like to think of myself as a member of the patriarchy. We do such amazing things. We have submarines that are 1,000 feet under the surface of the ocean, and they suck seawater into the submarine, and they purify it, and they suck oxygen out of it to breathe on the submarines, and purify the water and desalinate the water, and we can do all this stuff. We do it all the time, but California is apparently unaware of all this. Listen, Joe, thank you for the call. I love science, and I love engineering, and I love smoke in the air sometimes, especially when there's a barbecue. There's been grilling up some meat. I had a couple of nice Omaha steaks last night. My best grill and Omaha steaks, delicious. Filet mignons. All right, now let's get to this other. Let's get to Christopher Wray. He's the director of the FBI, and he was on 60 Minutes with a Democrat Party frontman who didn't ask any of the right questions. And he asked him about the raid on Mar-a-Lago, but he didn't ask all the appropriate follow-ups.
Part of the FBI's job is to safeguard classified information.
Yeah.
And when we learn that information, classified material, is not being properly stored, we have a duty to act.
Duty.
And I can tell you that in investigations like this one, a search warrant is not, and here was not, anybody's first choice.
Wasn't our first choice.
We always invariably try to pursue the least intrusive means.
How about with Joe Biden? I think you did pursue the least intrusive means with the Democrat who had classified documents at multiple locations in Washington and Delaware, and in a garage and in a file cabinet. And of course, if you're a real reporter, you say, now, did you bring classified document cover sheets to Joe Biden's house and lay them down on the stacks of classified documents in Joe Biden's house and Joe Biden's office and photograph them and then provide them to media that was hostile to Joe Biden? Because you did that to Donald Trump. But, of course, he didn't ask that. Christopher Wray.
What influence did the Biden White House have on any of these Trump investigations?
I haven't had any interaction with the Biden White House about investigations into the former president.
Anybody at the FBI?
Not to my knowledge.
Wray's FBI also investigated President Biden for keeping classified documents and separately investigated Biden's son, Hunter.
Making it sound like it's all even, Steven, like it's all fair. No, it's not. He didn't ask, Scott Pelley did not ask the correct follow-up questions because he went in there not knowing or willfully ignorant of the differences between the FBI's treatment of Donald Trump and the FBI's treatment of Joe Biden. When it comes to classified documents, the same topic, totally different handling. But that's the two systems of justice, two tiers of justice, political justice, political FBI, and then political 60 Minutes, political CBS News, not asking the obvious, if he were well-informed, follow-up questions of the FBI director. Didn't happen. Good to be a Democrat. Poor Rachel Maddow at MSDNC, who I think had her pay cut from $30 million a year to $25 million a year recently. But they extended it by 5 years. So even at $25 million a year, it's just $125 million. But she was only hosting one night a week, 1 hour a week for $30 million a year, then down to $25 million a year. Now they say she's got to go back to 5 nights a week because of, why? Trump. Because of Trump. For the first 100 days of Trump, Rachel has to go to 5 days a week, 5 nights a week again. And that's only like $1 million a night. You know, that's, I don't know what is that? That's crazy. Well, it's $5 million for Monday and $5 million for Tuesday. $5 million. All right, let's go to this Snopes guy. Snopes is a fake fact-checking outfit, left-wingers. And the guy who started it and owns it is named Chris Richmond. And he's become too wealthy off of this fake fact-checking fraud site. And he was on MSDNC, naturally. And he's very upset with Mark Zuckerberg because now he's noticed that Mark Zuckerberg is sucking up to the government now that Trump is coming in because he's getting rid of his fact-checkers that only fact-check conservatives, and they fluffed Democrats. Snopes CEO and founder Chris Richmond.
Mark Zuckerberg is saying, oh, well, the fact-checkers or biased fact-checkers are causing censorship. But let's look at the most famous example of Facebook censoring content, and that was the Hunter Biden laptop story. And we say, well, it was fact-checkers, right, who told Zuckerberg to limit the reach of that? No, it was the government. So Facebook complied with the government, and then the fact-checkers get the blame. If Kamala Harris would have won, would he be taking any of these same actions now? No. He complied with what the government wanted then, and he's complying what the new administration wants now.
But this guy didn't object until he perceived it as Zuckerberg and Meta and Facebook bowing to Trump. He stayed silent for 4 years while they corrupted our election. This guy's not a fact checker at all.
Zuckerberg should also consider, from a business standpoint, what happened to X when they removed all these restrictions. A large percentage of their advertisers left. So This problem is worth billions of dollars to not get wrong with Zuckerberg's.
Yes, it's worth, yeah. That's but there's fake, and Snopes is not a legitimate fact checker. It's another Democrat Party front group. There he is, lisping his way through an interview on MSDNC. Yeah, well, for 4 years, he bent a knee to the FBI and the government under Biden, and that was fine. But now that he said he's getting rid of the fake fact checkers that were really censors, now Snopes boy is upset.